What's up, guys? Welcome back to a new what if of What If Deku Was the Shield Hero Part 1. Now, before we jump into this what if, I just want to say thank you to MajinX for the thumbnail. Go check out his channel, it's in the link description down below. He does what if Deku content just like me, and I do want to shout him out to say thanks for this amazing thumbnail. Now, let's jump straight into this what if. See, Izuku and Inko were heading off on a vacation. After Izuku had finished his final exams for the semester, Inko had decided to take Izuku on a vacation. Inko and Izuku were currently inside a library for reasonings that Izuku didn't even understand. His mother had said that she wanted to check out a book about the history of the area. And she also wanted Izuku to find a book to read something as well while they were both here. Izuku ended up walking around and found himself in a different room. It was more in the back section of the library where it looked to be tons of different stories everywhere. He seemed to be in the historical fiction section. Eventually, Izuku found a book. The book itself was titled The Four Heroes, which Izuku wanted to read, thinking about that maybe it was something to do with My Hero, like heroes and quirks, which would have been exciting for Izuku because he still was a quirk freak. Eventually, Izuku picked up the book and started to read it. It stated a tale about four heroes, each hero donning a specific weapon. A legendary weapon each, one representing a spear, a bow, a sword, and a shield. Izuku liked the shield the most, mainly because he thought about how the shield would protect people. It would be there to help save people, be the defender of everyone. Izuku really didn't know about anything else though about the book. And just as he was about to put it down, the pages started to quickly flip. This confused Izuku even more as he instantaneously thought it was a villain attack. Most UA students have been attacked recently, so Izuku didn't think it was out of the realms for him himself to be attacked, especially after everything that had happened during the school year. Eventually, Izuku's world around him began to change. Everything started to look slightly different. Almost like he was now, instead of standing in a library, standing in a weird room. Eventually, a weird thing started to appear on Izuku's hand. It didn't hurt much, but Izuku started to feel a slight tinging sensation on his skin, until he suddenly blacked out. When Izuku awoke, he found himself not inside the library he was in, but inside a different area. There were a few other men standing nearby him, one with brown hair, one with yellow, and another one with blue. This confused Izuku even more. He looked around to see that they were inside some sort of room, and he wanted to ask them what their names were. He saw that each man had a weapon, which confused Izuku even more as he instantaneously got in a fighting stance, which spooked all of the other men there. Until he saw on his arm that he had a shield on his hand, which confused Izuku even more. What is this? Get this thing off of me. Yo, bro, do you know why we're here? Said the man holding the spear. No, I don't. All I remembered was reading a book about four heroes. Oh god, is this a quirk? A quirk? What's that? A quirk? You don't know what a quirk is? No, what's a quirk? A quirk? A superpower? You know, something that 80% of our population has? What are you talking about? Whatever. Izuku instantaneously started to activate full Calling to prepare himself for an incoming attack, thinking that the enemy had some sort of hallucinogenic quirk or something like that, and that he had been attacked or targeted. All the other guys were kind of confused by this, but started to see electricity spark off of Izuku's body, which kind of started to freak him out a bit. Eventually, a man showed up in front of him. The man was wearing a white robe and seemed to be generally pretty peaceful and a priest-looking style character. Eventually, the man explained, saying, "Hello, great heroes. I am the priest of these lands. I have summoned you all here for various different reasons, but the main reason is to fight off the waves." The waves? Izuku remembered reading about it in the book. "You mean the groups of monsters that are coming to fight?" "Yes. Each one of you have been equipped with a sacred weapon that only you yourself can hold and use." Izuku was very confused about this and decided it was time to start asking some questions. The first question Izuku asked was, how can he get sent back? Which kind of confused almost everyone else. Seeing how Izuku was the youngest out of all of them, they weren't kind of surprised that Izuku wanted to be sent back. Most of the other personnel there were at pretty dead-end positions. Most of them didn't even live a pretty well-off life. So it wouldn't be surprising that this boy, who apparently said he came from a world that has superpowers, would want to go back to such a world. Eventually the man said, "Well, you can't go back." This shocked all four of the guys standing there. And then Izuku asked, "Why is that?" The man ended up stating that he couldn't go back for the simplest reason that he would have to defeat the waves before he could get back. Izuku asked the man, "Why was that?" once more in a more demanding tone, which started to spook the other guys. Remember what Izuku had said. They wouldn't be surprised if Izuku was being serious, and if this was an actual superpower individual that had been given just a sacred weapon that even if they couldn't do anything, wouldn't actually be very useful against him. Eventually, the man said, "Well, you see, you heroes are meant to help save this world, protect it from the waves. If you don't protect the world, then we all die. So why don't you just equip your own personnel with these superpowered weapons?" "That won't do. Only people that are summoned get equipped, and they automatically get equipped to the one who had the selective preference." Sounds like a load of BS. "Whatever you say, Shield Hero." The man obviously was very belligerently speaking towards Deku, which Izuku found very annoying, mainly because he didn't understand what he had done to earn the man's grievance. Eventually, the party ended up realizing that the Shield Hero was not actually that well liked here, much to Izuku's dismay because he was the aforementioned Shield Hero. Eventually, Izuku ended up realizing that this situation seemed to be an issue. Izuku decided that he would start talking about things with the other members and asked them if they were okay with the situation as it was going. The other members really didn't seem to care much about the current situation, which, once again, annoyed Izuku a lot, for the simplest fact that he figured that they would want to return to their family lives. Eventually, the man said, "Kid, is what you said about having superpowers true?" Izuku looked to the man once again, very confused. Eventually, he realized that maybe that this wasn't a quirk and that this was actually the truth, and that people here just don't have powers, unlike back in his world. Eventually, Izuku ended up saying, "Yes, people in my world have powers. We have multiple capabilities that allow us to be stronger, faster, and more agile than regular personnel." "What does that mean?" "Well, you see, back where I come from," how do I explain this? Back where I come from, 80% of the population has a superpower while only 20% does not. My power gives me increased speed and strength. Think of me as the resident Hulk. I am way stronger and faster than almost anyone else. Especially after some time when I get better accustomed to my strength and seeing how I'm more of a durability class personnel, I probably can increase my endurance, which should allow me to use more of my power. Well, what happens when you use your full power? Well, when I use my full power, I break my bones. It sucks. So yes, if I prepare, I should be able to do it. Well, hopefully that works for you, kid. You all will be joined by adventurers, said the priest, eventually chiming in out of nowhere, which confused Izuku and everyone else there. There are many people that will help join you on the way, but we decided that we'll help you now. Rather than making you guys wait, we will give you guys trusted companions. Izuku decided that this wasn't really an issue towards him, seeing how he really did not care about needing trusted companions, he just wanted to find a way home. And if finding a way home means that he has to very quickly take care of some monsters, then yes, he will do so. If it meant saving people. Eventually, they found their way to a courtroom that had the king inside of it. The king had a daughter with red hair, which kind of surprised Izuku at first. There was mention that the queen and the secondary daughter were both currently not present, which kind of confused Izuku even more. Eventually, the king ended up stating that there are a group of adventurers, and any adventurer that wanted to go with a certain hero should stand behind them. Eventually, people ended up standing behind multiple of the other heroes, except for Izuku. Izuku didn't mind this as much because he understood that the basic ability of being a shield hero meant that no one else really wanted to help join him. Eventually, one girl came over to his side. This girl was a girl with red hair. If Deku remembered, was the princess of the land. Izuku felt honored to have the princess join his side, even if it was out of pity. Izuku was offered cash to start, but decided against it because he felt like it would be unfair and rude to justly accept money without needing anything else. This raised his reputation without anyone else even asking, mainly because a man that was able to deny cash that was handed towards him was a pretty good man, because it meant free labor. Even though that's not what Izuku was really doing, he just wanted to get home as quickly as possible, and having to deal with the cash balance of someone else's cash that Deku thought that he might have to repay in the future did not sound like a fun barrel of monkeys that you want to open just yet. Izuku eventually ended up leaving with the female. Izuku really didn't care much about the female's name and mainly just kept on walking forward. He really didn't want to have a companion in the first place, but seeing how the princess had joined him, there was really not much he can do against it. Eventually, Izuku ended up finding a weird orange balloon-style creature. He tried to punch it with his shield without using One for All, but decided that that was not the accurate method to achieve such a strength feat. Eventually, the female had decided to stab it and gave Izuku a piece of rubber that had come from it. Izuku thought it was weird how they were using medieval weapons but had creatures that produced rubber. Izuku decided against questioning it for now, seeing how he had come from a world where there were superpowered individuals that possessed superpowers, seeing how that was very uncommon here. Eventually, Izuku had kept on training. He started to use One for All, which impressed the female more than she had originally thought that she would be impressed by the young boy. Eventually, though, the female had left saying that she was gonna go buy some better equipment. Izuku told her that that was all cool and that he was gonna constantly keep fighting here. Which shocked her even more because Izuku had, even though he had no money, had basically just said, "Here you go," which was very gratifical towards the female. Eventually, Izuku realized that he had his phone on him and took it out. The phone was a pretty cool item and was pretty excited about it, seeing how he maybe could actually contact people back from his world. Eventually, Izuku realized that that wasn't working. The lady had asked what was the device he was holding in his hand, and Izuku said it was his phone. It was a device for communication over long ranges. And the lady thought that was pretty cool. Izuku eventually went to sleep. The next morning when he woke up, something preposterous had happened. His phone was missing. Almost like he had dropped it somewhere. He had expected that he dropped it and almost looked everywhere for it, but couldn't seem to find it anywhere. This caused Izuku even more strife because it was one of his only ways to attempt to communicate back to his regular world, maybe through the use of magic. And if he could, hopefully get through to a connection with All Might or someone else. Izuku eventually saw that the girl who was with him made him out to be some sort of weird pedophile style guy, even though Izuku was very much of the sort. He was an actual hero from a hero society, which kind of upsetted Izuku a lot. Eventually, the personnel there all started to treat him different as well, almost like he was some sort of monster, almost like he was a villain of sorts, which annoyed Izuku even more. Eventually, Izuku had enough of this and decided to leave the area. He went to a more chill location, an area that did not have too many people inside of it. It was in the forest. He hunted monsters solo for the rest of that day after being accused by what he counted to be allies of being something that he was not. Eventually, Izuku ended up coming back to turn in all of his cash and go to sleep for the night, just to find the room that he was in to be all gone. In other words, to find that the room he was at, to have all of his belongings stolen once again. Izuku decided that he had enough of this inn and its horrible thieving policy, and decided to go sleep outside for the night. And that's where I'm going to leave off this what if. Sorry if it's really short, guys. My throat's been hurting a lot recently. So if you guys liked it, hit the like button. If you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button. And until next time, goodbye.